She said the trip wasn't about me. So I froze the card mid-lunch. My mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "This trip isn't about you," right as she was using my card to pay for every single meal, every tour, every fake little moment she wanted to capture. I didn't argue. I just smiled, packed my stuff in silence, and then, right in the middle of lunch, I froze the travel account. By dinner, her card stopped working. The hotel key? Useless. But before I dive into all that, let me say this. I've noticed the channel's been slowing down a bit lately. If you're here and you like these stories, hitting that subscribe button is the easiest way to show support. It's fast, it's free, and it really helps keep this community growing strong. Before we get too deep into the story, real quick, if you've been enjoying these, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's free, only takes a second, and it really does help this channel grow. Okay, back to it. Truth is, I didn't even want to go on this trip in the first place. When my mom first pitched the idea, she made it sound like some big, fancy European getaway, her attempt at family bonding. But I had my doubts from the jump. We hadn't been a real family since I was 16, back when she divorced my dad and pretty much reinvented herself overnight. Gone were the weekend pancake breakfasts and lazy movie nights. Instead, she started chasing rich men, aesthetic filters, and Instagram likes. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being her kid and started becoming more like an ATM with a phone number. Still, guilt has a way of whispering in your ear. So when she called me last spring, practically singing about a 2-week trip through France and Italy, I sighed and said yes. She swore we'd split the costs. I booked the flights, locked in the hotels, and even linked my travel card so things would run smoothly. Honestly, I should have known better. By the second day, I saw exactly where things were heading. Every restaurant bill, my card. Every guided museum tour, my card again. Her brand new suitcase from that absurdly expensive boutique. Yup, charged straight to me. And every time I brought it up, she waved me off like I was being unreasonable. Relax. Don't be so uptight, she'd say with a wine glass in her hand. It was obvious she never intended to pay for any of this. This trip isn't about you. Wasn't about me. I was the one who spent hours researching flights and hotels, who juggled my work schedule and shuffled deadlines just to make the trip happen. She didn't even pack her own credit card, just strolled around with my travel wallet like it belonged to her. By the 4th day, I was boiling inside. But I kept it together because I didn't want to blow up in the middle of Florence. I kept telling myself I'd talk to her back at the hotel. But when I finally brought it up, she laughed in my face. God, you're so dramatic. Why can't you just be grateful? Most girls would kill for this kind of trip with their mom. Yeah, most girls' moms don't treat them like an all-inclusive resort. I wanted to explode right there, but I didn't. I clenched my jaw, stayed quiet, and watched her strut around in a brand new silk dress, all smug and self-satisfied. It finally hit the breaking point over lunch in Rome. We were sitting at this charming little cafe in Trastevere. I could barely eat, while she was acting like she was the guest of honor at some private gala, ordered a bottle of wine, 2 starters, and was halfway through her second glass when she looked up and repeated it again, like some twisted mantra. This trip isn't about you. Something inside me just flipped. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I smiled, excused myself, and walked calmly to the restroom. Sat down on the closed toilet lid, pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, and froze the travel account. 1 click, done. Access cut off. I returned to the table like nothing had happened. She didn't notice a thing. Too busy batting her lashes at the waiter and curating her seafood risotto for Instagram. We finished the meal, and I even offered to split dessert, just to keep the illusion going. Then I headed back to the hotel, packed up, and quietly checked into a small Airbnb 2 blocks away under my own name. That night, the fireworks started around 7 p.m. Her call started blowing up my phone. Missed call. Another missed call. Voicemail after voicemail. Where are you? The hotel says you checked out. My card won't work. What did you do? That was the first text. I didn't answer. At exactly 8:12 p.m., she followed up with another message. Did you freeze the account? My keycard isn't working. I can't get into the room. What's going on? I waited a full hour before responding. Then I sent just one line. You said this trip wasn't about me, so I made sure it actually isn't. No reply. At 10:37 p.m., she tried calling again. I let it ring until it stopped. That night, I went to bed with a strange calm I hadn't felt in years. Not relief. Not joy. Just peace. The next morning, I walked to a quiet little cafe near Piazza Navona. Sat outside with a warm espresso, people watched a little. That's when my phone buzzed again. This time she was trying to get through via WhatsApp. I'm locked out. I had to sleep in the hotel lobby. My stuff's still in the room. This isn't funny. Honestly, I didn't think it was funny either. I thought it was overdue. Eventually, I typed out a simple response. You can speak to the hotel manager and have them charge the incidentals to a new card, like any grown adult would. She read it and didn't write back. That afternoon, I spent hours at the Vatican museums. Just me, my headphones, and some of the most incredible art in the world. No forced conversations, no pretending to laugh. It felt like I'd finally shrugged off this invisible weight I'd been carrying for years. Later that night, back at the Airbnb, I opened my inbox and found a string of emails from her. Some were full of apologies, others were passive-aggressive guilt trips. I didn't mean it like that. You embarrassed me. You always do this. Please unblock the card, just so I can get my luggage. I kept it short and direct. The hotel will release your bags when the balance is paid. Try calling Dad. Or maybe one of those guys you date who always post cryptic quotes about loyalty. Was it petty? Yeah, maybe. But for once, I finally felt like I had just a sliver of control in a dynamic that had always been tilted in her favor. She had this way of twisting everything. If I pointed out the problem, I was ungrateful. If I took space, I was heartless. If I gave in, she'd just take more. There was no winning. Not until now. The weird thing was, it didn't even feel good. Not the way you'd expect revenge to. It wasn't satisfying. It was just quiet. Sad. Like finally deciding to set down a book you've been forcing yourself to finish for way too long. But it had to happen. Over the next few days, I explored on my own. I signed up for a cooking class in Tuscany, rented a bike, and spent a morning riding through the streets of Lucca. Ended up wine tasting with a group of strangers I met on a local tour. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel buried under the weight of her expectations. And still, a small part of me wondered, was she okay? Did she finally figure something out? Did she go home early? Or was she still wandering around Rome, hoping someone else would pick up the check? I didn't plan on reaching out. At least, not until I got back home. Then came the message that stopped me cold. It popped up 3 days later, just as I was packing my bag for the train to Venice. Subject line, I'm in the hospital. Text, I fainted outside the train station. Mild dehydration and stress. Don't worry, I'm okay, but I could use someone here. Please. I just stared at my phone, caught between disbelief and that old, deep pull of obligation. Was this another guilt trip? Some emotional play to drag me back in? Or worse, was it actually serious? And that's the messed up part. Despite everything she'd done, despite all the lies and manipulation, I still cared. I hated that I cared, but I did. Because no matter how many times she used me or twisted the story to fit her own version of reality, you don't just shut off 30 years of instinct in 1 week. So, I called the hospital. They confirmed it. She'd collapsed near Termini Station and had been admitted for exhaustion and dehydration. When they asked for an emergency contact, she only gave them my name. So yeah, I went. When I walked into the hospital room, I thought I'd feel angry, or smug, maybe even vindicated. But the first thing that hit me was how small she looked. My mother, who had always been loud, immovable, and totally in control, was lying in a thin gown under harsh fluorescent lights, suddenly quiet and fragile. No makeup, no performance, just her, tired, worn down. She looked up at me like a kid who'd gotten lost in a crowd. I didn't know who else to call, she said, her voice dry and brittle, like it hadn't been used all day. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat in the chair beside her bed and watched the fluid drip into her arm. You didn't have to call anyone, I said eventually. You could have just brought your own card. Her face bent into a faint, crooked smile. That's fair. I wasn't trying to punish you, I added, and I meant it. I just hit a wall. You treat me like an ATM. Then you say stuff like this trip isn't about you while literally living off me. I had to take my power back, or I was going to lose my mind. She nodded slowly, eyes starting to well up. I know I do that. I take and pretend like it's normal. I don't even remember when I started being like this. I do, I said, not sugarcoating it. It was after the divorce. You didn't want to be a mom anymore. You wanted to be adored. I became the audience or the financial sponsor. She didn't argue, just stared down at the blanket over her knees. After your father left, she said quietly, I felt invisible. Not just romantically, like, as a human. If no one saw me, I didn't matter. You were growing up so fast. So independent. Everyone was. And I just felt behind. Unseen. Broke. So I chased what made me feel powerful again. Pretty things. Vacations. Compliments. And validation, I said. Especially when I leaned on you. Until I couldn't anymore. She exhaled a soft, broken breath. I'm sorry. It didn't fix everything. I'm not even sure I fully believed her. But for the first time in over 10 years, she said those words without flipping them into some twisted accusation. That counted for something. I stayed with her for about an hour. Got her a cup of water. Helped her connect to the hospital Wi-Fi so she could contact her insurance. I even gave her enough cash for a taxi when she got discharged. But I didn't unlock the card. She didn't ask me to. That night, I boarded my train to Venice alone. And for the first time, it actually felt right, like I'd finally closed a chapter that had been dragging on for way too long. The last 2 days of my trip, they were the best. I wandered the quiet canals, snapped a few photos I didn't bother posting, and bought myself a little watercolor painting from a street artist. Peaceful. Still. Unexpectedly healing. When I flew back home, I half-braced for a dramatic airport ambush. But there wasn't one. Just a text, a few hours later. Thanks for coming to the hospital. I know I've caused a lot of damage. I'll pay you back for everything. It might take time, but I will. I promise. I know this doesn't fix us, but I hope it's not too late to change. I didn't reply right away. A few days went by. Then a week. Eventually, I sent a message back. You can start by paying for your portion of the trip. I'll send over the breakdown. As for the rest, we'll see. Change takes more than words. And that was it. She did pay me back, little by little, over the next 4 months. Never missed a payment. I never asked where the money came from. I didn't want to know. We talk now, but it's different. The guilt's gone. Replaced with boundaries. I don't answer every call. I don't say yes to every invite. And if she ever mentions doing a girl's trip again, I'll smile and say, you're more than welcome to go. Just not on my dime. Because here's the thing nobody really tells you about toxic parents. Sometimes they never truly change. Sometimes they just shapeshift enough to sneak past your guard again. But if you're lucky, really lucky, they hear the message before it's too late. And if they don't, then freezing the card is just step one. Because this time, I won't be the one stuck paying the price for her lesson.